Well, that's zoomed out as far as I can get it. Let's tip this thing over. Vectrex. Milton Bradley? Really? And multi-cart. Vectrex arcade system. GCE. And on this side, Mindstorm. Well, let's get this thing unzipped and see what is actually in here. It looks like it is an actual Vectrex system. There's the owner's manual. Tells you what the buttons do and everything. Phone number to call if you have issues. Doubt that it's active at this point in time. How to play this game. What was it? Mindstorm. Cord. Let's get this thing out of here. So nicely enough, I won't show you the owner's name or information, but from Console5.com, the customer did supply a recap kit for this. Looks like they might be fairly good quality caps. Rubicon in there. I haven't looked at all of them, but so this is the Vectrex recap kit. C409 nonpolar replaced with new cap marked BP or NP. C513 replaced with the 1000 microfarad 35 volt capacitor. Console5.com. Okay, well, he wants this recapped. So first thing I'm going to do is power it up. Make sure it actually does work before we even start work on this thing, because the last thing I want to do is start work on a totally defective unit. So like last time, we'll flip this guy up. And can we get the thingy mabobber open? Yes, we can. Okay, so I can get to the controls down here, reset, and then there is the power on off. So we'll put that there, or you can actually see a little bit of it. Get this other stuff pushed a little bit out of the way. Okay, AC power has been applied. Here we go. Power on, please don't blow up. And I heard the horizontal start, that's a good sign. And it does actually come on. The flickering that you see is definitely from the camera and not the game system at all. So it does actually work. That's a good start. It's got this overlay that I believe you can remove and get to just the CRT screen itself. Looks pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and try to get this thing open and see what it's going to take to recap it. Now, the customer did send me complete instructions via a email link to get this done. So, and this one actually sounds pretty good. I wonder if this is the one that I did the audio kit on a little bit ago. I'm just going to unplug the joystick controller. I don't need it rolling around and getting damaged. So power is off. AC power has been removed. Let's get this thing apart. One moment. All right, well, there is the don't do this, don't do that, especially don't use it in the bathtub or play with it in the rain. There's the model number HP-3000 and the serial number 0049657. Made in Hong Kong. This is not a toy. Well, I kind of thought that these were actually toys, but okay, I was wrong. Well, let's see how easily this back is going to come off. I don't think anything comes with the back. No, it does not. And there is the inside of the Vectrex. So is this the one that got the buzz off kit? And yes, there it is right there, the buzz off kit. So, wow. Yeah, that might have been me doing ESR checks on caps. A lot of times I'll put a red mark on them, but he just wants the caps replaced. So those are all the caps on the CRT board, and then down here is the monitor board. I'm sure it's going to have a few caps. I wonder if they're going to replace these, what are these, the polymer metal caps, possibly. Not quite sure, but this might be the same one that I worked on like a year or so ago. But not a bad looking machine. Not a bad looking machine. Okay, well, let me get the boards out of this thing and try to find the instructions. I'll try to print them out if I can. One moment. Okay, so I went to the Console5 website and I did find a picture of the main CRT drive circuit board, not the computer board, but the vector drive board for the CRT. And it does show all the layout and the location of the capacitors. I believe it shows polarity with, I would imagine, the line being the negative, as well as this is the CPU board, as they call it. And it looks like it's going to get 4 of the capacitors. And then somewhere I did print out a list of all the capacitors. Let me zoom out so we can get the whole list on the screen. And there it is. So that's what's going in. So hopefully every capacitor that says it's in the kit is actually in the kit. Well, let's get the soldering iron and the solder sucker warmed up. Now they did mention replacing a couple of the capacitors on the back side of the board, but I don't think that's going to be necessary because I have a good Hakko FR301 solder sucker, and it's done a very good job of removing the solder. It talks about just a poor quality board, especially on the double layer boards, ripping out the plate throughs, but I don't think we're going to have that issue. But we'll find out when we get there. One moment, let me get the boards out of this thing, get it set up on the bench, and we shall get started. So they suggest mounting a C409 and 410 on the back side of the board, as they are the hardest to get to. I decided I'm going to not take the easy route, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this heatsink, which is where the caps live underneath here. Let me turn off the manual exposure, and hopefully it'll brighten it up slightly, and no, it didn't. So I've already got these 2 screws loose off of the amplifier chip. I believe that's the deflection amplifier. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws loose there. And I did unmount both of the power transistors from the heatsink. So basically, we take those 6 screws out, and this heatsink should lift off. It is currently loose. One moment. Okay, so I did go ahead and pump up the exposure. This metal shield is really playing with the AGC on the camera. So this should be loose. It should lift straight up and out of the way. And so down on the bottom, you can see that there is a thermal pad with the tiniest little bit of heatsink compound. We will add more heatsink compound to it. Then there are the 2 capacitors they want you to mount on the bottom of the board. Now I would do that, but I want to remove the original capacitors just in case they become leaky. Because one of the ways these caps fail is they get leaky over time. And you don't want to leave the old caps in the circuit. Now you could just go ahead and just flush cut them off of the circuit board right there. I wonder if I can push in just a bit more to get you a better photo. But there is one of them there, 0.47 at 50 volts. And I do not know what C409 is. I'd have to refer back to the cheat sheet. Now that's a 0.47 at 50 non-polar. C410 is the 0.47 at 50 polarized cap. Well, let's get the solder sucker all warmed up and ready to go. And we'll go ahead and rip those off. We'll put the new ones on the same side of the board as the manufacturer did. Put this thing back together, and then we'll change all the other caps. One moment. All right, so I did go ahead and verify that the silk screening on the board is correct. It does show the positive to be on the top of your screen and the negative to be on the bottom. That is correct. This is the bipolar cap. So let's go ahead and get these guys unsoldered. There is one. And there is the other one. These both should be loose now. And they came out no problem whatsoever. New one's going back in. This is the 0.47 bipolar cap. so it does not make a difference which way it's installed. I think I will pre-bend the leads to remove a little bit of stress from the body. And then that one is the 0.47 polarized cap, which is going to go in that orientation right there. So what I'm going to do is just solder one lead of each capacitor. And then hopefully my soldering is long enough. I'm going to reach underneath and physically push the capacitor against the board like that. And the same with the other one, just to make sure it's seated completely flush. That looks good. I like to alleviate stress, so I'm going to stand up the other two leads. And then I want to move the first lead over to alleviate stress from it too. It probably doesn't make a bit of difference, but I still tend to use that method. Besides, it looks better in the end. Okay, looks good. We can go ahead and throw the heatsink back on here now because no other capacitors live underneath. So I'm going to add some fresh thermal compound to the pad right here. I don't want to tip it over too much because it still has the screws in it. So we'll add some fresh thermal compound here, here, and to the pad, and we'll put this thing back together. I'm keeping the screws loose until I get all 6 of the big mounting screws attached underneath. Okay, let's go ahead and change all the other caps now. All right, so hopefully I have this in a position where I can get to both sides and you can see what's actually going on, possibly. I did go ahead and verify based on the print here that all the polarities are exactly what they say they are, and yes, indeed they are. So I'm just going to go ahead and start ripping off 2 or 3 caps at a time, and we'll try to get the values and get the new ones installed. I'm going to go ahead and time-lapse this because otherwise it's going to be a 2+ hour video to replace all of these capacitors. You may have a discrepancy, Houston. This capacitor that came out is a 220 at 25. And the replacements, I believe, are 220s at 16. Let me refer back to the prints and see what it has to say. One moment. Well, the capacitor in question is C114 220 at 16. So I do have a couple of 220s at 16 supplied with the kit to replace the 220 at 25. Possibly it's only running at about 10 volts. So we will go ahead and add the 220 at 16 and we will continue on. Got another one that's not lining up with what it says. One moment. Well, for C113, it shows a 10 at 16, but they sent 10s at 50. Probably going to be okay. I don't like going that much higher on the voltage on these guys. I would rather use a 10 at 25 if possible. It does not allow the capacitor to be formed correctly if you go too high over the actual usable voltage. But we'll get those guys installed and we shall move forward. Just got to find all the right capacitors. So that one I just pulled out was a 470 at 16, C523. Yeah, 470 at 16. And there it is, 470 at 16. And what's nice, every cap I've seen is 105 degrees Celsius rated, so that is very nice. Okay, well, I do believe that all of the caps, which I have labeled south of the border, have been taken care of. And I will go ahead and double check the polarity just to make sure that we are good. Now we'll do all the caps north of the border over here, including the big filter caps. Although the replacements are quite a bit smaller than the original ones were. But they claim to be the same value, and I'm sure they probably are higher quality capacitors. I don't know if you'll get 40 years out of them, but we'll give it a fresh start at least. All right, let's get started on the north of the border capacitors. Here's the border right there. Let's go. Well, unfortunately, we pulled a pad off that side of the board, so we had to go ahead and definitely make sure we got solder on that side of the board. So I think we're going to be just fine. Hopefully none of the other pads became compromised. That one just lifted off, no questions asked. We may have to put a bigger tip on for those guys. Well, we're going to have to do a little board repair on that one, and that one doesn't look too good either. Just low quality boards. I mean, come on, people. Just make them a little bit better. It's not that hard. So I really wanted to get the big caps off the board before I did these little guys over here because it's going to give me more access. So I'm going to change my tip back over to the small tip and we'll go ahead and get these guys changed. One moment. Okay, well, went ahead and added a little piece of wire through the board in a horseshoe configuration so that it goes over, turns down, and then comes back. And I went ahead and tacked the top on all 4 of these pads because down below we lost that pad. That one's still good. I added the wire to it just in case. That one is still good. I added the wire to it just in case, and we lost that pad. So when the new caps are installed, the wicking effect of the solder will wick the solder up into the pad, and with the wire it'll make great connection. Yeah, why do they have to make such cheap boards? Okay, well, one hurdle cleared. Let's go ahead and replace these guys. Then we'll populate these and we'll be good. One moment. Well, I think that's it. I think all the caps have been changed. I'm going to go ahead and double check the polarity just to make sure that we're good on everything according to the map right here. And then we'll move on to the, what they call that, the CPU board, which gets these 4 caps. It's got thread lock on it. All right, completely recapped. I'm going to go ahead and give this thing a good look over one more time, and then throw it back together, and hopefully we get good results. Okay, well, the whole thing is back together. Everything is reconnected. I do have AC power applied, and I thought I would bring you along for the first power up. Just in case it lets the smoke out, you can kind of help me figure out where it came out of. Here we go. Power on. Oh, and I heard the horizontal start. Got the volume up just a little bit. And I do hear sounds. That's a very good sound. Pick it up. Can't lay it down, obviously. But yes, look at that. And like I said, there's no flicker in real life. It's the camera that's actually causing the flicker. Well, let me get the back thrown back on this thing. The back. But seems to be working absolutely perfectly. One moment. Let's get this thing reassembled. Okay, here we go. All back together. Power this thing on. Hopefully we can spin the... it's like... what is it? Asteroids, I think this is. I have it on auto slow shutter, but it's not doing its job. Yes, that does work. Okay, well, I'm going to say it works just fine. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed the video on recapping the Vectrex. Go and leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below, good or bad. I try to respond to the comments when I have time. While you're down there, if you could please hit that subscribe button and like this video. It really does help my channel grow. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X at NorCal715. You can email me, norcal715videos@gmail.com. If you want to contact me, please just leave me a message or a comment in one of the videos. That's the best way to get a hold of me. So if this is Minefield 1, I'd really hate to see what Minefield 2 or 3 actually looks like. I actually used to have a vector game. I had a Asteroids cocktail game at one point, and I really wish I would have never gotten rid of that thing. Anyhow, there you go. The Vectrex recapped, living another day. Everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye-bye. The heck is that thing? Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Okay, helps if the audio is on.